Efforts to enforce gun control laws in the United States date back to the early 20th century, but the conversation around gun regulation has roots in its nation's founding and its interpretation of the Second Amendment. In the 18th and 19th centuries, states and local governments passed laws regulating firearms, particularly to prevent armed insurrections or ensure public safety. For instance, some laws prohibited concealed carry or restricted the sale of firearms to certain groups. In 1934, the National Firearms Act was the first significant federal gun control law. Enacted in response to gang violence during Prohibition, it imposed strict regulations on sawed-off shotguns, or shotguns with barrels shorter than 18 inches, short-barreled rifles, or ARs with barrels shorter than 16 inches, and silencers. The National Firearms Act was imposed by Congress in an attempt to make it unaffordable for the average person. It was a reactionary force in an attempt to prohibit the sale and trade of weapons and accessories used in many notorious gang-related crimes. The NFA wasn't a strict ban. It was a tax slipped through as a revenue act and adding a $200 tax on quote-unquote banned weapons, effectively doubling the price of a machine gun and adding expensive annual license taxes as well. Because of inflation, that would be around $3,700 today. Al Capone, who became a member of the Five Points Gang at the young age of 16 years old, used the Thompson submachine gun for the Valentine's Day Massacre on the day of February 14, 1929. Back then, the Thompson cost around $200, and the average person wouldn't be able to afford the firearm. Most versions of the Thompson submachine gun had a finned 10.5-inch barrel and a cuts compensator to help control the recoil in full auto mode. The gun weighed about 10 pounds, and with a stock attached, it was just over 31 inches long, so it was pretty easy to hide and carry under a trench coat, which was the style back then. Unlike bandits of the Old West riding on horseback and armed with six-shooters and lever-action firearms, Bonnie and Clyde rode around in a powerful Ford V8 Deluxe. Bonnie and Clyde were most known for their bank robberies and multiple murders. The guns found in their vehicle at the time of their death were 3 Browning automatic rifles, also known as the BAR, 120-gauge Remington semi-automatic Model 11 shotgun, 110-gauge Winchester Model 1901 lever-action sawed-off shotgun, 138 caliber Colt Detective Special Revolver, 132 caliber M1903 Colt automatic pistol, 125 caliber automatic Colt pistol, 145 caliber Colt M1909 revolver, and 7 M1911 automatic Colt pistols. They also had 100 fully loaded 20-round BAR magazines, some in bandoliers, and 3,000 rounds of other assorted ammunition. From the modifications they made, we can tell the couple carefully considered the tactical advantages of their tweaks. Firearm historian T. Logan Medish of High Caliber History said, "The gun from Bonnie and Clyde's rolling arsenal that gets the least attention is their cut-down 10-gauge Winchester 1901 lever-action shotgun. Anyone who has shot a 10-gauge shotgun will tell you that it's an experience in and of itself. Cutting down the gun's barrel made it more maneuverable, but the buttstock was not chopped like the Remington Model 11 shotguns the gang used. This shows that they wanted the power of the 10-gauge, but recognized that also cutting off the buttstock would make it downright unmanageable. So they compromised by just cutting the barrel. In 1938, the Federal Firearms Act required gun sellers to obtain a federal license and prohibited selling guns to certain individuals such as felons. This is also a direct result of gang-related crimes. They found that the FDA really didn't do anything. In many states, private sales are legal. You need a license to make a living of buying and selling firearms. Privately selling firearms for profit for a living would get you a felony charge. In the 1960s, gun control laws was racially motivated due to Black Panthers and followers of Malcolm X arming themselves. Due to hot political times such as assassinations, the inventions of new firearms such as the M14, AR-10, M16, and AR-18 rifles were produced. In 1968, the Gun Control Act followed the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. Congress passed the Gun Control Act to regulate interstate commerce of firearms, restrict gun sales to minors and certain high-risk individuals, and establish federal oversight of gun dealers. In 1986, the Firearm Owners Protection Act relaxed some gun regulations, but it also banned the production of machine guns for civilian use. This grandfathered everything manufactured before. In 1993, the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act was named after James Brady, who was wounded during an attempt to assassinate President Ronald Reagan. This law required background checks for firearm purchases and established the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. In 1994, the federal assault weapons ban prohibited the manufacture of certain semi-automatic firearms for civilian use and large-capacity magazines. For the first time in American history, America attempted to define what an assault weapon is and ban specific features of military-style rifles such as AR-15 and AK-47 pattern-style rifles, which we are still fighting this. This includes folding and collapsible stocks, muzzle devices, pistol grips, high-capacity magazines, and bayonet lugs. This enacted a point system, which you can have no more than 2 features before it becomes illegal, with the exception of pre-existing grandfathered items. This 1994 ban grandfathered existing quote-unquote military-styled assault weapons. Firearms manufacturers worked around this by deleting a set number of features of these quote-unquote assault weapons in order to maintain the sale of these firearms. This basically did nothing. It didn't change the function of the gun. This ban expired in 2004, and crime rates didn't change. If anything, they escalated. Waco was a direct result. The past few decades have seen attempts at new gun control legislation, particularly in response to mass shootings, but many of these efforts have faced political gridlock. Notable events such as the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in 2012, the Parkland, Florida shooting in 2018, and the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, which was Jason Aldean's concert, renewed debates over universal background checks, bans on high-capacity magazines, and red flag laws. Trump signed an executive order to ban bump stocks. Also, the forced reset trigger banned by the ATF both had recently been overturned by the Supreme Court. Bump stocks and forced reset triggers are an attempt by the ATF and political legislators to classify firearms accessories as machine guns. States have taken varied approaches, with some enacting stricter gun control measures and others expanding gun rights.